All right, today we've got our friends Austin Visser and Justin Jones with us from the Undertaking and from Idle Threat, respectively. At this point, we've made many jokes, but truly, you guys are the unofficial co-hosts of the Black Sheep Podcast because, you really are on the Black Sheep Podcast far too many times than I think anybody cares for. But you know what? You are our friends, and so we let you back on. I think Cullen probably feels the same way about me. It's like, why? You probably, like, for 4 years now, I've been having this guy named Mason continue to show up on my damn podcast, and you just feel obligated since you're a friend. Right, Cullen?
Yeah. We'll go with that, I suppose. Why not? Why not?
Sometimes you got friends that are just annoying and ridiculous, and you feel obligated to them even when it's to the detriment of everything else.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's only upsetting when somebody's hangry, and Mason is very hangry right now. So that's, you started off with a bitter.
I'm mostly always hangry, though.
Are you really? You eat like a rabbit. I don't know. Anyways, fellas, it's good to see you. I'm glad you guys are here. Mason might not be here, but I love you guys.
That's true. Also, Cullen, are you wearing a robe right now?
I am wearing a robe right now because I don't give a fuck. And it's cold as hell outside. And I'm in the basement, so.
I love it.
I should have a bowl of soup.
If you had your bare chest right now, you'd be looking like Hugh Hefner.
Yeah, that probably would, except I would be way less old. So that's nice.
Less
This is our second annual top 5 list.
Yeah, with this group.
Yeah, you were on last year, right?
We did it last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, speaking of
Thanks
which,
for having
a
us
little
back.
spoiler alert there. So, yeah, we're doing our top 5 2024 albums. So, thanks for the introduction, Austin. Yeah, we're going to do our top 5 2024 albums, and I'm super stoked. Great year of music, another great year. I just I say this every year for the last 7 years, but we are just I think in some of the best time of alternative music, heavy music, indie music, punk, metalcore, hardcore, doesn't matter.
Hip-hop.
Just some of the best music coming out right now. We're in the golden age.
I think we are too.
So
I really do think this is my favorite year of music in the last 5 years.
Let's find out why.
Yeah,
we're blessed. We're blessed. So each one of us is going to go through our top 5 albums. So these are albums in order. I made sure that these guys knew that this had to be in order. So when we say number 5, it is truly our number 5 favorite album of 2024. And whatever ends up being number 1 for each one of us is our top favorite album of 2024. Okay? So that is
Are we doing honorable mentions at the end?
Yes.
Yes, we will do some honorable mentions at the end, of course. So if, one of your favorite albums is in there, that's cool. So, but, certainly we're going to do some of our honorable mentions. So there also, I think maybe in previous years, we've been Cullen and I at least have been sticklers about not having overlapping albums. This year, I'm just fuck it, who cares? We're probably going to have a lot of the same albums, and that's okay. So we'll probably end up talking about some of the same albums, and that's fine. So, top 5 favorite albums of 2024. We'll start with number 5, and then we'll go to number 4, and so on and so forth. All right, my number 5, I gotta pull up my list. My number 5 is by a band that Cullen and I interviewed about this album. I'm sure this album will be in Cullen's list as well. I am trying to remember in this moment how to pronounce the album's name, but it's a band that has been one of my more favorite bands for the last 15 years. And the band is My Epic, and the album is it L'Oreella?
Yep.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
L'Oreella. So, just a great album. It's been a while since we've gotten a full-length album from My Epic. And it just does all the things that My Epic does really well. You get some of the parts, certainly there are a number of songs that are just super heavy. I mean, there's a reason why Andy Atkins from A Plea for Purging has said before that My Epic was the heaviest band on Facedown. I mean, there's some stuff that is just the heaviest stuff. And then you get just the twinkly, even electronic parts of this album that My Epic does so well. So I just, anything that Aaron Stone is going to put out is probably going to be one of my more favorite albums of the year. And so we're just, I feel really fortunate that I'm living in a time period where My Epic also exists. So just a big fan of My Epic, big fan of this album. So yeah,
that would have been in my top 5 as well. And I think that it's an interesting album. You say that it's all the things that My Epic does good, and while I do agree with that, I also think that this is a very kind of out of left field album. I think all their albums kind of go a different direction pretty significantly, and I really liked where this one went, much more than maybe the last 2 releases. So I had a lot of fun with it. It's good.
Are they based in Nashville now? Is Aaron Stone a Nashville guy? I forget, or maybe he's still in like North Carolina or whatever. Or Virginia, maybe. So sweet. All right, Cullen, let's hear your number 5.
Well, sweet. I'm not gonna copy you because I think we have multiple albums actually in the top 5 together, Mason. So I'm going to I'll pull in a different album. What would have been my number 6. I'll make it my number 5. This is Godspeed You, Black Emperor. No title as of 13 February 2024. 28,340 dead. That is the name of the record. It is. This record is amazing. So many huge layers and everything like that through every single song. They have a couple new songs. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. I don't remember off the top of my head, but a couple of the songs, like the melody of the guitars, actually have. I've like implemented like almost like a singing melody in my head, but it's not singing. I don't know how else to explain that. It's kind of messed up, but it's that good. It's that well composed. It's solid all the way through.
And we saw them live.
Yeah, when we saw them live a couple weeks ago, and it was chef's kiss.
Yeah, I remember. I'm not like the biggest Godspeed fan. And so that was the first time I'd ever seen them live. I remember my takeaway from that concert was they seem like the kind of band where you've got, there's probably like 8 people on stage playing instruments.
Yeah, 7 or 8.
Like all 8 of those people are classical music nerds that somehow got a hold of electronic instruments.
Yeah.
Like that's how, to me, that's like how they arrange their songs. That's how they play their guitars and their other instruments. Like it just seems like a bunch of people that are actually really into classical music, but they're like not, they don't have the bona fides to like, but not, that's actually super demeaning to them. So they're like a bunch of like classical music nerds that decided, you know what, we're going to go like the more electronic route.
Yeah. Yeah. What I enjoyed most about that live show is that every band that you ever go see, you're like, okay, now I kind of have like a visual representation of what this band is, like who they are, what they look like, and now that kind of helps like match like the music in my head, right? So Godspeed You doesn't have any, like, none of their album artwork has their faces on it, and even though I saw them live, I still don't know what their faces really look like.
Yeah, they all were really dark still.
Yeah. Like they didn't like put a lot of light up on stage. I think there was only like 2 like regular like 40-watt bulbs up there. It was really cool. So like they were like obscured while still not being obscured. It's crazy. Like Mason and I were talking afterwards. Like we could walk out in the street and they could be walking out in the street, and we could have just got done watching them and not recognize who they were.
Like that's how that's how like sort of incognito they were.
Yeah. Very coolly done.
Yeah, other than the one guy who had the very like 80s hair metal hair.
Yeah. Yeah. But even he was like
there was that guy, but that's about it. Yeah. Like the other people in that band, they literally look like they work in IT or something.
That's true.
They just like they're so average looking, so unassuming.
That's true. Well, let's keep moving on. Let's go Austin.
My number 5 was My Epic's latest album too.
Nice.
Dang, look at you,
so
Austin.
3 of us had My Epic in the top 5.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Well, that's why I didn't chime in for you. But my story with My Epic is I'm not familiar with their stuff at all. Like I skipped over them.
Really?
Oh, wow.
I have never listened to them until this year. And the reason Yeah, well, I feel kind of stupid about it because Johnny Mercury and the Undertaking is always telling me like how good they are and how like talented of a band they are, all this kind of stuff. And we ran into them at Audio Feed, and they played the same day we did. And so I like finally watched them play, and then they also played Furnace Fest this year. So like I felt like for me it was like one of those things where it was like, all right, I got to finally listen to these guys. And they were definitely just very different than what I thought that they were. I don't know, maybe assuming that they were just kind of a typical, and I don't mean this with any shade, but just like a stereotypical face down band that put music out in like
They're
the
nothing like that.
early 2010s and stuff. And I've been on a huge Manchester Orchestra kick over the last like 2 years or so. And that's like they're another band that kind of falls into that with like this kind of not pseudo spiritual, because My Epic obviously really embraces a lot of that stuff, but I don't know. I've really enjoyed going through all their albums, and then for me to kind of fall into this new album was exciting, and it was cool. So yeah, I love the album. It's been fun to kind of go through. I'm a little bit of a completionist, so then I try to go through and listen to all their stuff. And like you said, Mason, I thought you nailed it pretty well, that they like kind of have changed or Cullen, I don't know, remember who said it exactly, but every single one of their albums is a bit different. So that was I don't know, it was a fun journey, and that's like yeah.
What got you into like just listening to this particular album? Like, was there maybe a podcast episode you listened to, or?
Well, no, I it's funny. My list, I don't really like making lists, so them being on my top 5 is more of my like musical journey this year. That they're a big part of like a band that I discovered, and I've listened to them a ton over the past like couple months.
Yeah, but how did you discover them?
Audio Feed and Furnace.
He told us that, Mason. Good God. You're still.
No, that's what I was saying.
You're still hangry.
We played 2 festivals where they were like there, so it's like, and Johnny watched both of them and was like, "I'm gonna go watch My Epic," and I was like, "Oh, I'm not familiar with them," so it just kind of forced my hand into getting into it.
Okay,
there you go. Okay,
sweet.
Yeah,
I missed that part.
Good call.
That's okay. Just like you missed our set at Furnace Fest 2 years ago.
Not entirely.
Most of it. That's all right though. What's been your favorite My Epic album then, of all their records?
Is it Behold?
Yeah.
The one that has the song that has Majesty when they do the chorus of Majesty and the Hail song or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm like listening to this band and all of a sudden they start singing Majesty in the middle of a chorus, and then they have like that heavy part afterwards, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, dude, there's a few of those songs that I think are some of the most perfectly written songs that the vast majority of even people in the Christian alternative scene will never hear for no reason whatsoever other than that. They're, they have their head under a rock or something.
All right, my turn for number 4, right?
Yeah.
So my number 4 is a band that I don't know if maybe Cullen, maybe you've heard. I don't know about you, Austin and JJ, but this is a band that I've been listening to probably for maybe 5 years now, and have really loved a lot of their stuff. But this album kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't realize, like, I don't follow them closely enough to like know that they were working on a new album or anything. They're not a huge band at all, but the band is called State Faults, and they had an album called Children of the Moon. Unbelievable, kind of like Death Wish Records hardcore kind of stuff, where it's just like this very artsy version of hardcore. It's just really, really well done.
You geeked out with Nikki Long Island about those guys.
Oh,
really? Okay. All right. Well, it's good to know you're a fan.
No. On your podcast with God's Eyes, Nick.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So they're
Yeah, they're such an incredible band. Just been a really big fan of just the way that they construct kind of hardcore music. Anything like I'm a huge fan of Birds and Row. Like we just today that we're recording is the day that Spotify Rap came out, and I think Birds and Row is like my number 2 most listened to artist, and that's probably been the case for the last like 5 years.
This year still.
Yeah, number 2 for me. So, I listen to Birds and Row all the time, and that's obviously another Death Wish band, and they just seem like State Faults is kind of like in that vein of like artsy hardcore that you would hear from Death Wish, and I just think it's so freaking good. So anyway, big fan of Children of the Moon by State Faults.
We caught them at Pugfest in Detroit this year.
Nice.
Where are they from? Are they? For some reason, I'm thinking they're a California band, but I could be totally wrong.
I don't think that they are.
Whenever I hear the word State Faults, all I can think of is
Bay Area. They're from the Bay Area.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So they are a California band.
I always thought that it was a reference to like fault lines and stuff like that. But
yeah.
maybe it is, maybe it's not. If it's Bay Area, maybe. All right. Well, my next one is Tiger Wine's Toil and Spin. I think these guys never get enough anything. These guys are so good. They're such good people. Great songwriting. Killer lyrics. Musically, they're so ahead of a lot of other bands like in the same vein as them. Riff monsters, like holy buckets, all the way around. I love this record. I'm glad that they're back. I was wondering if they were going to come out with another record, so just very, very happy that they are, and couldn't be nicer people. So Tiger Wine, Toilet and Spin.
Unbelievable album. Yeah. There are like bands that are in that vein of like really kind of heavy alternative rock. I would imagine like maybe we'd probably put My Epic in there, Thrice, those types of bands.
Yeah.
Manchester Orchestra, those type of bands. And yeah, I think out of like those types of bands, Tiger Wine is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
Criminally underrated.
I saw that you guys had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and I think they put it out. I think they put out their first album about around the same time that Funeral Psalms came out, and I never got into them. I never checked them out, so I definitely got them on my list.
Criminally underrated. It's kind of unbelievable that they never really popped off that you would imagine a band like that would, but but still at the end of the day they're putting out amazing music.
Yeah. Good. All right, Austin.
All right.
My number four is Meadows, Familiar with Pain. I feel like that's one that I gotta just put on my list because I love those boys so much. And when you have friends like that put out an album, it's what goes into putting something out, and it's one of those things where you just are so proud of what they put their heart and soul into, and then everything that they went into this year and all that kind of stuff. But I love the Meadows boys, and I love the album. I think only. Only those boys could do something as like sincere as the album that they put out in terms of like Passion Week, and you just know that Christian's so sincere about it. And then for me, they had let me listen to the album before it came out, and they had asked me to make notes like on which ones were my favorite songs, which was a hilarious process because Meadows, they're so different than the Undertaking boys, and my favorite songs on the album were so different than their favorite songs. And I had put actually My God Is Strong as like I even put that on like a separate tier of songs. And like I was just like, this is so much better than anything else on the record. And they thought I was joking because they kind of know my story, and just the fact that I would say like a worship song like that was my favorite song on the album. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? That song's so good, especially knowing that it was about Stone's dad and that he and Hayden wrote it, and then for Hayden to be on the album too. So I don't know. I love Meadows, and I'm proud of those guys. So love that album.
Yeah, love those guys. A year of some torments for them as well. Mm-hmm. I think that they need to get their flowers here because that's a killer record, heavier than their last, lyrically and musically as well, which is always fun to hear. So
I'm gonna piggyback for a second. So Austin, you know, so when they first started playing some of those new songs like live, I remember just having one of those like moments where I was like, this band just took it to the next level. Like, Meadows is a killer band now. And like we've toured together and all that stuff, but I don't know. So, something about them with this record that just came out, like my favorite thing about them is Christian, just his lyricism is phenomenal. Just the way that he crafts everything. Mm-hmm. And I just, I can't like praise them enough for that. But this record really, I hope it keeps like doing things for them because nobody deserves it more. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's something going along with like Christian's songwriting too, is that he doesn't just throw words on a sheet and say, oh, that sounds good together, or that fits, syllable wise or whatever. I mean, he really does craft it like you're talking about. I mean, he goes multiple layers, multiple interpretations. It's much more intentional than I would say probably 99% of people in the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep, that's exactly the kind of songwriter he is. So,
yeah,
I love those boys.
Right,
They're working on some more music, I think, and so I'm excited to see what they do next.
Heck yeah.
killer.
Love it. All right, I think we're at number 3 now. So back to you, JJ.
Number 3. Number 3 for me is gonna be, man, it's I love how everybody's doing like indie artists and all this stuff, but number 3 for me is Kendrick Lamar's GNX.
Yeah.
So Kendrick's had a massive year, obviously, but to me, he's still probably, the best that's ever done it. I think he's a rap artist on an absolute other level. Like, he's on his own planet and everybody else is back on Earth. And just, I don't know, there's something like real special about like angry Kendrick too. So
very much so.
Drake, in whatever grave he's in right now, pushing up those daisies, dude, like, thank you for being such an idiot, because you've delivered us a lot of great music. Because Kendrick coming after him is, the beef that I've been waiting for a while now. Like,
yeah.
And, I was talking to somebody the other day about like, beefs within like the heavy music scene and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, you don't see like all that kind of stuff as much nowadays. I mean, unless I'm just like under a rock, but like, the big rap beefs and stuff are just so fun to keep up with.
There is one beef in our scene, or not our scene, your scene right now.
You're included.
Am I included? I don't make music. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. It's with Craig Mabbitt and Garrett from Silent Planet.
Okay, I was about to say, I'm going to pick a side immediately. What happened?
Mason, do you remember what happened between Craig Mabbitt and Garrett from Silent Planet?
I think like Garrett kind of called him out for being like a douche, and Craig, not Craig. It's
not
Ronnie
Craig Mabbitt.
Radke.
It's Ronnie Radke. Sorry.
I knew about that.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. I'm on Garrett's side.
Yeah, but Ronnie has beef with everybody that breathes.
I screwed that up. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
the fact that you're picking on one of the nicest people on earth is kind of funny.
It's hilarious. Like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Gay Christian pirate.
That's what I was gonna say. The gay. What was it?
Was.
Gay woke Christian boy or whatever. And I was like, that's me.
That's a great pick. I was thinking, Kendrick definitely needs to be mentioned in this list.
Absolutely.
By one of us. So I'm glad that you bring up Kendrick, because, I think a lot of people are, it's hard to compare his albums now, where it's just because they're all the best, some of the best hip hop albums ever. So it's like hard to like, okay, is it better than like DNA or Pimp a Butterfly or whatever? But it's a difficult debate at this point. But I think you let like even this album marinate for a long enough time, and I think people might be coming back to like, okay, this could end up being his best album.
I won't lie, it might actually, and recency bias, but like it might be my favorite record from him. And To Pimp a Butterfly is like a perfect record. So
yeah.
But I don't know, GNX, like, it doesn't even have Not Like Us on it, but like, basically when Kendrick was like coming at Drake so hard, that obviously is the most spin song by most of the country. And you had all the camaraderie that was going with it, so like that put that kind of started the fire. And then he dropped this record out of nowhere, and it's great. Like the storytelling, the lyricism, the beats, all of it. It's just I'm gonna be listening to this constantly for a while. So
yeah. I don't want to rain on your parade, but I really like Kendrick, and I think that his flow is.
Are you a Drake fan?
I'm definitely not a Drake fan. I never have been. In fact, I was making fun of Drake back when he was on Degrassi.
As you should.
Yeah. Well, he was in a wheelchair in that show, so maybe I shouldn't. But I I did kind of feel that this record was maybe a little bit samey in terms of like beat and flow, and I feel like that's just completely opposite of how Kendrick usually is. Usually, every song is in a wildly different, kind of tempo, different style of music, different flow and rhyme schemes, and this one just felt a little bit samey to me. And it's probably just because I haven't sat with it enough, like you're saying. But man,
you should give it another listen. It's
first 4 or 5 listens. That was my thought process. So lyrically, though, man, he's not pulling any punches there. Jeez. Yeah, Mason, you ready?
Great pick. All right, my number 3. We had just talked about him, but my number 3 is Knocked Loose's "You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to." Obviously we've said quite a bit about them already, but the only thing I'll just add is I don't think Knocked Loose is doing anything all that unique in terms of like their sound. There are other bands that are just as heavy and just as creative. They just do it better than everyone. Cullen, we've talked about this on the podcast where we're not like the biggest August Burns Red fan. And it's not because we think that they make bad music. It's just that they were the band that did that sound so well that every other band decided to sound like it. And that kind of made it a little bit more derivative to us. And I can see why a lot of people would maybe not like Knocked Loose because of that reason, because they're just so good at what they do that everybody now is probably going to want to sound like Knocked Loose. So maybe that's my only other like commentary, is that they just are the best at what they do and nobody comes close to it. Also, like they seem to be like the greatest of guys. We've never interviewed them. We've never gotten to know them. They just seem like really good guys. After they had played Kimmel, Brian Garris put an Instagram post about like how cool it was to like literally walk through the Jimmy Kimmel studios and see all of these super, super famous people, like their pictures, and see all these super famous people that they're walking down the same hallway that those people have walked down. And then he looked to their guitarist, and I'm blanking on that guy's name now, but he looked at the guitarist and said, "Dude, this started in your garage, and here we are now." Like, to me, that's a really great recognition of like how hard they have worked for that moment, and they might never ever get close to that kind of moment ever again. And it's just super cool to see that they even like cherish that moment, that like they recognize it takes a lot of hard work to sound like the way that they sound and get to that level. It's way easier if you're like a pop artist or whatever. But to sound like they sound and get to that level is pretty unprecedented. And I just really respect them for that. Even if you're like not the biggest Knocked Loose fan, and for a long time I was not, but I really truly get it now. They are just so much better than everyone else that is like doing the metalcore hardcore thing. They just are so much better.
Yeah, I could word vomit about the same thing for a while, but I just think this is it. It really could be a turning point for, our scene, seeing a band like that kind of blow the doors off. I mean, I like right after they filmed that, did y'all see where it is? I think it's Body Count. Body Count's going to be on like, is it Fallon?
Yeah, I saw that.
Or something.
Fallon.
Dude,
something like that, yeah.
That's so cool. And I mean, like, I don't know. They kind of have the cred already or whatever, but it's like, I don't know. Like, it's just so promising for the bands that are working to push through that. So
yeah. I understand that there was like a huge big outcry of people that were really pissed off that Jimmy Kimmel would invite them, but also I remember seeing like a tweet about kind of in terms of the reaction of it, of like, there's probably like a 10-11-year-old kid that's watching that right now and thinking, and that has never heard that music ever, and is like looks at that TV and that TV screen and says, that's what I want to do. And that to me is like what gives me hope. Like, people are inspired by like that's the kind of music that they want to create in the world, because not a lot of us get to ever see that kind of music represented at that level. And so for that to be represented, and to know that like maybe like some 13-year-old kid sees that on a TV or a YouTube video and says, that's what I want to do, like that's a real possibility because they saw that video, or they saw that on Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, like I have heard that thought process a few times now. And I don't know if I quite buy that, though, I don't think there's any 13-year-old watching Jimmy Kimmel.
You never know, man.
I bet they're.
If this was 2012, maybe. I don't know.
Their headphones are on watching Fortnite.
Yeah.
YouTube clips. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe their dad was watching Jimmy Kimmel and they happen to be in the same room.
And the dad is going to start a band. There we go. That's what we should have. We need more Austin age people.
Is that how the Undertaking started, Austin?
Dang.
My dad was watching Jay Leno one night.
He just felt so
Red Hot
inspired.
Chili Peppers came on. He was wearing a sock over his wiener. Changed my life. I actually don't like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but
what?
cheers.
Really?
They're probably one of my least favorite bands.
Is it just because of Anthony Kiedis?
I'm not a big fan of their sound.
You're from California. You should be like indoctrinated already.
Literally the California sound. It's your
I
national
know.
anthem. Californication is literally the California national anthem.
Yeah. All right. Next
State
album.
anthem.
Thanks.
I am on board with you on that though. I just don't like Anthony Kiedis' voice very much.
I don't like his lyrics. I don't like the noises that he makes. I don't like the noises that Flea makes on the bass. I just like
what? Okay, all right, you can shut up now. Let's move on. That's the hottest take I've ever heard.
It's not a good band. U2's a bad band too.
Oh, I agree with you two, but jeez, saying that Flea's not an awesome bassist is.
I didn't say that he's not an awesome bassist. I said I don't like the sounds that I hear coming out of the bass. There's a difference. I can have an opinion.
Okay, I'm just okay. Yeah, let's not belabor that. My number 3 is a band that is actually a bunch of elderly men. They're not actually elderly, but they're among the older age.
Wait, are you doing?
They're older than Austin.
No, Cullen, really?
They're older. They're older than Austin. I have listened to this album so much this year. The band is Mount Ansra. And the album.
I thought you were about to say. I thought you were about to say those like two old like English rappers.
Oh, Mason, now you got to pull it up. You gotta. Oh, we can't pull it up on here, can we?
Yeah,
Damn.
we can't do sound. But okay, Cullen literally once a week sends me a video clip like on Instagram of these two old white guys from like England that rap.
I just gotta pull it up for you guys.
They're actually really talented. They're really good, but it's just like it's hard to believe like they're these two bald white guys from England that are really good at rapping. It's amazing. Anyway, I thought that's where you were going with that.
One second. I have to show you guys now. This is just for us.
Banging on the chick 'cause I'm a gangster bitch. I'm gang banging on the strip on some gangster shit. Hammer in the truck and I can bang this clip. And if you want to test us, I let the rap to rip. Reps up, get back in the
I'm inspired.
The clock keep ticking, the block keep trapping. This one phone call if I want to toe tag him.
Now look at them.
Oh, it's painful.
Heck yeah.
And their live shows, like, they go off. Like, everyone in the crowd is like 20 years old and losing their mind. It's a blast.
Well, that's funny.
Anyways, no, we're not talking about them. We're talking about Mount Ansra. The album is called Sacred Time. This band is sick. It's like if Radiohead, a post-rock band, Slint, yeah, we could throw, yeah, definitely Slint. Tool. If they were all like just like one band somehow melded together, it is such an interesting sound, and it is done so well, and it's only a 2-piece, and I'm blown away with the talent in these two guys. English dudes. We had them on the podcast, and I think it's probably my favorite show we had the entire year. Great people. Great album. You guys have to go check it out if you haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah, it's one of those bands where, you know, nobody has really heard of them. They might have like a couple hundred monthly listeners on Spotify, and it's unbelievable. Like it's truly unbelievable. It's hard to believe that these two guys who have one has been in the music industry. Actually, I think they maybe both have been in the music industry for a while, but they're probably in their 40s or 50s.
I would say late 40s or 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, and they decided to start this band together. At that age of their life, and it is just immensely talented. It's so well done. So their song Fever Dream. So I'm not going to have them on my list, but Fever Dream was listed as like on my Spotify Wrapped. It was like maybe 5 or 4 most played song of the year.
Hell yeah!
Cool. It's just unbelievable band.
Yeah. Good. All right, Austin.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it. I actually had it the other way on my list, but I'm actually gonna do "Knock Loose." You won't go before you're supposed to as my number 3, just to wrap up the conversation with the band. Because I'm a huge. I really like this band. I think they're phenomenal at what they do. I think your comparison to August Burns Red is really good because they know what they do and they do it so stinking well, and it sounds so good. And Justin, you had said that the promotional material, the artwork, the merch, the music videos, and kind of everything that they put forward with their album package is all so well done. And I don't know who leads that charge within the band, but I think it's so inspiring to me. Trey Hales does some of their artwork, and he's the one that did the funeral psalm stuff, like the Lamb and some of our stuff. So then it's kind of fun to be like, oh yeah, we know that guy, and he's doing really cool stuff. Like the pop-up shops, all the merch was Trey Hales. It's just pretty sick. So that's cool. And then I don't know. Yeah, I love this album. I think it's super heavy, and I got to see them in Vegas. So my family went to Vegas for the weekend a couple weekends ago, and they were playing the Pure Noise 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary at the casino that we were staying at. So we sent our kids up to their hotel room. My 2 boys, our daughter wasn't there, but we sent our 10-year-old and our 8-year-old up to their hotel room, got them all set up. They watched a movie, and Kylie and I went down to the House of Blues at the Mandalay Bay and saw See You Space Cowboy, Spanish Love Songs counterparts in Knock Loose. So that was a cherry on top. So to be able to see all the songs off this album and the production and the cross lit up in the background, just everything for them is one of those bands that I'm always kind of paying attention to in terms of all right, what can I steal from this album cycle or whatever. So they're a band that really we don't sound like them at all. My lyrics aren't really like his at all, but it's a band that I'm always kind of paying attention to see what they're doing and how they're releasing music, where they're releasing it, what they're doing. And I think that's super inspiring. So I tried to go to Kimmel. I was on the list for getting tickets, and I didn't get in because it's the lottery system, and I was so bummed.
Yeah, I would have been bummed. Instead, some 23-year-old girl got
exactly
face kicked in. So good for her. I
was really hoping somebody would make it on stage and stage dive or whatever.
Yeah.
That has probably never happened at Kimmel.
Definitely. I'm not a Knocked Loose fan at all. But I do definitely support them and everything that they're doing because I think that they are absolutely essential for pushing forward the best genre of music that deserves its time in the sunshine, And if Knock Loose is it, then it's it. What I love is that they took basically what is a memeable viral moment with the Arf Arf and made that into actually something that's not cheesy or corny. With the rest of their music, they're actually being artists, and I love the fact that they brought on Poppy. By the way, I don't know if you guys know Poppy's earlier career. I've been listening to Poppy since 2011, and she sounds completely different. But I think some of that reggae kind of influence that you were talking about, I think that's actually from her because she has a lot of reggae influence in her pop music. But she makes some really good stuff. Even going back to 2014, she had a song called Low Life, I believe. Great song. Justin, it's right up your alley. I think you would dig it. So, but yeah, I didn't know she could scream. Her scream is
her scream is
it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Good. All right.
Number 2.
Dose. My See, I kept bouncing back and forth on my 1 and 2, but my 2, I think, as of right now, is going to be another rap record, but Chromacopia from Tyler, the Creator.
Oh yeah.
And I won't give
I
like
love
a
this album
long,
cover.
dude, it's so good. But I won't give like a super long-winded, incoherent rambling because I'm obviously not on my A game tonight with articulating my thoughts. But this record, I think, was another step up for him. I think people finally started to take him seriously when he put Igor out, and then, you know, the Grammys and all the awards and all that kind of stuff started coming in for him. But this is when Tyler kind of stepped into his like more theatrical, ostentatious, like artistry, and I think he just kind of came into fruition. And then, you know, he did Call Me When You Get Lost, and then honestly, I didn't think he could top it, but this record might have topped it because you have, you know, you have storytelling on it, like the song Hey Jane. It's about like a young couple that, you know, has like an unwanted pregnancy and like what to do, and that one's kind of like, you know, emotional. And then you have fun songs that have like Sexy Red on them and stuff like that. So like, I don't know. It's just this one. It's like Tyler found what he does best and is kind of staying in that realm, but he is always doing something unique and is always crafting something that is just extraordinary. And it's been really cool to watch him grow and evolve as an artist as well. So number 2 this year for me is Chromacopia.
Dude, good pick. I really feel he is like the David Bowie of
It's a
the hip
great
hop
comparison.
world. Like the way that he like changes his his image and his style, song to song, album to album, is 100% ripped out of the David Bowie playbook, and it's the best playbook to pull from, if you ask me.
I'm really glad you said that because I made that comment probably like a month or two ago to my girlfriend. I was like, yeah, like I think like Tyler the Creator's like the modern day David Bowie. And she's a massive David Bowie fan. So she's like, no, like you're crazy. And I was like, I'm telling you that this is like my perspective of him as an artist. It's like, he's just, So thank you for validating my feelings.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm so much of a David Bowie fan that I named my dog Bowie. So you can tell your girlfriend.
She has a cat named Bowie, so
a bona fide Bowie fan also agrees with you.
And our dog's name is Freddie after Freddie Mercury. So
that's pretty sick. Do they constantly go around barking under pressure?
That just gave me a great idea for our Christmas card, though. So
that'd be sick, dude.
That's awesome. To sort of riff off that with you're talking about kind of just like the creative outlet or just like really the creative output of Tyler the Creator. I this is going to be so ridiculous for me to say, but I love when people are like so stereotypical a certain Enneagram type, and Tyler the Creator to me is the most stereotypical Enneagram 4 ever to ever exist. And so when you guys are like talking about like, you know, he's very David Bowie like, or like, you know, every album, like he's got like, he leaves like a different kind of like mark. I'm just like, this is so Enneagram 4 of him. And I especially love like it's the hip hop artists that I enjoy the most are probably those hip hop artists that probably do take way more of a risk in their sound. And I think Kendrick is probably maybe in that vein. That's part of the reason why I really like Kendrick. But yeah, Tyler the Creator is like totally in that vein as well. And I haven't really dove into this new album as much. I'm definitely way more like a kind of a bandwagon fan of him. But he is somebody I really respect because he is somebody in my mind. I'm like, oh, he is like the most stereotypical Enneagram 4, and I kind of love that about like him, that like he's like, so you can put him in a neat box in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, and I just thought of this as you were talking, it's like the, you know, 3 out of the top 5 records that I have now are rap records, but all 3 of those artists are very different. doing their own thing, and they're all like just masters of their craft. And I don't know, it's just they're all going after different emotions and telling different stories, and I don't know, that's super cool. I think rap, honestly, like the underground, like heavy scene, like the alternative scene, and then like the rap scene, all of them are in such a good place right now with all the music that's coming out from, artists big and small. So.
Yeah.
I just hope that Tyler the Creator and Kendrick Lamar never get in a beef.
That would break my heart, actually, because I don't think I could pick a side.
It's way easier when it's Drake and Kendrick.
Right.
It would be way more difficult if it was Tyler the Creator and Kendrick. So, all right, that's your number 2. Great pick. Great pick. My number 2, another Death Wish Records band. If you can't tell, I'm a huge Death Wish. Pretty much anything that comes out of Death Wish. I feel like Death Wish now for me is like what Tooth and Nail was for like 2004 to 2009. It's like anything they put out is going to be my favorite thing ever. But the band is called Gouge Away. The album is called Deep Sage. Gouge Away has been one of my more favorite bands probably for the last 4 or 5 years. Everything that they do, and they haven't put out a lot of music over the last 5 years, but anything they do is just absolutely unbelievable. Huge fan of they're almost I've tried to describe their sound to other people. I think the best way to describe them is the music of their band, like the instrumentation is similar to the instrumentation that you would hear on like the deep cuts of like In Utero from Nirvana. But like imagine if like instead of Kurt Cobain's voice, it's like like just as talented of a woman's voice.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like the best way to maybe describe their sound. Just unbelievably talented. You get like a lot of like the really fast punk beats, but then you have all this like really interesting dynamic instrumentation in other songs. They do everything so well. Huge fan of that band. They actually played in Minneapolis earlier this year, and I wasn't able to make their show, but God, just an unbelievable band. They're the type of band that pretty much anything that they'll ever put out, I'll probably have on my top 5 list because they just are unbelievably talented. So, Gouge Away.
I remember when Burnt Sugar came out, I was showing everybody that record, and I kept telling everyone, I was like, if I could choose to be like in a band, it would be Gouge Away. Like that is the band that I would want to be in. And this record is just a step up. Yeah, and a lot of the imagery and stuff that goes with that record and as well is really, really cool. So if you haven't listened to it, you should.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, and her voice is just so underrated. I mean, she should be on everything to me. Like her voice should be on everything because she can sing, she can scream. She's just so talented. She was playing bass for Nothing for a while as well.
Yep.
And she's just like really immensely talented. So I'm forgetting her name right now, but my goodness, like just everybody in that band is so good. And I think they maybe only have rough like maybe 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and it's just like, how are they not? Christina is her name, by the way. But yeah, they like aren't huge on Spotify, and in my mind, I'm like, how are they not like one of the bigger heavy bands right now? They just are way too talented to only be at like 50,000 monthly listeners.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Gouge Away, Deep Sage, number 2. Cullen, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Touche Amore, Spiral in a Straight Line. This is, I think, a continuation of Lament from 2020. Very much so lyrically in the same vein, very much so musically in the same vein. I don't think it's quite as good as Lament, but it is still, in my opinion, a necessary follow-up to Lament. And I Lament it's probably one of those albums for the decade for me that have just meant so much lyrically. I don't pour over lyrics. I'm not usually that guy that that does that all that much. I appreciate good lyrics, but man, anytime Bohm writes, it like hits me like a friggin' freight train every time, and it's the kind of writing that makes me feel like I'm like a teen again, like feelings very, very big. You know what I mean?
You're allowed to feel your feelings, Cullen.
Yeah, because you really can't do that when you're older, you know? Not in that way, at least. But, you know, I'll be out mowing, and I'll be like, I'm not sad, I'm like mad, I'm just like frustrated too. You know how I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about? Like that.
That's funny.
Like the fighting of emotions. And Touche Amore really brings that out in me. Spiral in a Straight Line brings that out in me. I just wish the album was a little bit longer. It's only like 30 minutes.
Yes,
Most
it's
songs
too
are only like
short.
2 minutes long. It is way too short. Yeah, especially after 4 years of waiting. So that's my number 2. Unless you guys got something else.
That's a great pick. I would have put them as like an honorable mention. They're probably actually. Let me double check. They're maybe at like 6 or 7. No, number 6. Yeah, for me. So they just missed my top 5 list for this album. I will say, Jeremy Bolm is like, you know, Cullen, we've talked before about like maybe white whales as interviews that we would have. Haley Williams is probably the top for both of us.
Not for me.
Yeah, obviously like Scoggin.
I don't care about Haley Williams at all.
Oh, really? I would absolutely like. I'm not even a huge Paramore fan, but I think Haley Williams would be like so fascinating.
Mason talks about it all the time. I think it's hilarious.
Hey, does
Anyway,
Scoggin not do podcasts, or is that just is he not interested in talking
Not
to you
really.
guys?
He's done about 3 podcasts total.
He's only done a few, and he's just impossible to probably nail down. Like he's just.
I'm gonna get him.
he's
I'm gonna
a
get
tough
him for
cookie.
you guys.
No,
I got
do
you.
it.
Yeah,
But-
I'll get him.
don't promise.
The reason why I
things
bring
you
that
can't
up,
deliver
though.
on.
The reason why I bring him up though, or bring that up, is Jeremy Bolm over the last like maybe 4 or 5 years, he's definitely like now entered in that conversation for like a white whale for me.
Heck
Like
yeah.
if we could get him on the podcast, like I feel like okay, we could end this podcast. Like he's one of those kind of people where I just like it would mean the world if we could get him on some. And he seems like the greatest guy from all accounts, like that I've ever heard from other people, and just like listening to his podcast, he seems like the nicest guy. And it would just be one of those things where if we could just somehow get connected with him, it'd be great to get him on. But yeah, I think Touche Amore is one of the better bands out there, and it's a great pick.
Yeah.
My number 2 album of the year is Will Putney Day, when Better Lovers released Highly Irresponsible and Fit for an Autopsy released The Nothing That Is, and both those albums are phenomenal. And so that was just like a cool day where like 2 freaking great albums came out. So Fit for an Autopsy isn't quite my wheelhouse, but there's a couple songs on there that just like absolutely crush me. So there's like a ton of I don't listen to that type of music very often. So then when I do get into it, I feel like real like moody and angsty because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to listen to like heavy, dark metal or whatever. And Better Lovers was great. We just saw them the past weekend at in Orange County. And this was the best show that we've seen him play.
Was there fire breathing again?
No, he did it in LA. He did not do it in Orange County. So I imagine that like the observatory had some rules against it or something. But
Sure. Well, they should stop caring about rules.
Yeah, it was great. Good albums. Love them.
Yeah, for sure.
The Will Putney. I actually, you're right. Like Will Putney. I mean, he's like just emerged as I forget. There was somebody in like the maybe mid to late 2000s that was kind of producing a lot of the. I mean, obviously, what's his name from Glow in the Dark? Why am I blanking on his name now? Like that's
Goldman?
Matt Goldman?
Yeah, Goldman. You know, Goldman was producing a lot of those albums for a while, where everybody kind of knew, you know, there was like this sort of Goldman sound. And there's been maybe some others in the heavy music scene, but like Putney he's definitely like carried that kind of lineage of now he's like kind of taken that, taken the torch and is, you know, just totally, just running with that sound. He's unbelievable producer.
Yep. All right, Justin.
Number 1, the top album of 2024 for Justin Jones. Well, actually, what's your middle name, Justin? I don't know if I know this.
It is Nathaniel, actually.
Justin Nathaniel Jones, what is your top album of 2024?
Okay, Mom.
I doubt your mom has ever uttered those words. Justin Nathaniel Jones, what is your top 2024?
Oh, well, yeah. So
the first three words she has absolutely
every day
uttered.
of my life.
Probably is uttering today at some point.
Yes, absolutely. My favorite record that came out this year is Post Malone's F1 Trillion.
Really?
Yes. So it also was my most listened to record this year. But I don't know, like it's kind of funny because like Jimmy Eat World is my favorite band ever. And literally every year that Apple does their like replay stuff, kind of like Spotify Wrapped, Jimmy Eat World is always number one. And it's been that way ever since they started keeping up with those metrics. But
it's probably been that way ever since like 2002 for Justin Jones.
Yeah, dude. My entire life I've just loved Jimmy Eat World. But anyway, the first artist that ever usurped them was Post Malone last year.
Whoa.
So this year, I still listen to Jimmy Eat World more, but they didn't have any new music. So Post Malone has my most listened to album, and it is my favorite album as of right now. Next week it might be Chromacopia again. They've been kind of flip-flopping, but yeah, I've been waiting on Post to do a country record, and he came to Nashville and just did it right. I think with all the guest spots and just the songwriting being fun, but also like there's some like serious songs and stuff too. It's just a perfect like culmination of what he has to offer as a country artist. And unfortunately I didn't see him on this tour, but you know, from all the videos and stuff I've seen, like he's just absolutely crushing it. Like it's just like this was the record that I feel like he was supposed to make, because he really does take the whole bluesy like R&B thing, honestly kind of like the rap hip hop stuff, and mix it so well with the little that is good with country music nowadays, and he made it his own. And it's been really cool to see like the success he's had through a country record in comparison to like when he did Stoney and stuff like that earlier on. And I'll shut up now because I could talk about this record forever, but it's just really fun. And I know that most people listening to this probably are more into heavy music, punk music, that kind of stuff, but you should give it a shot. And maybe you'll like a little twang in your repertoire.
Yeah, I think Post Malone can do nothing wrong, but here's
I agree.
the deal. I think he's a little upset because he wasn't the first guy in country music to have face tats.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to get like steered to a different direction, but I also really, really love Jelly Roll too. I don't know if that's who you're referencing, but
yeah, that's what I'm referencing. I like Jelly Roll. It's
dude,
yeah.
Jelly's from Antioch where I'm, born and raised. So like I love Jelly Roll.
Gotcha.
And
yeah.
dude, if I could have one like really, really famous like artist like collaborate with a band that I was in, then like I would want Jelly Roll to sing on a track that we're making. Anyway, but or Post Malone.
Idle Threat featuring Jelly Roll.
Dude, we're not cool enough for that. Let me start a side project and have Jelly on that. But no, I mean if whoever has connections, if you know Jelly Roll, and he wants to sing on like a post-hardcore record or whatever for Tooth and Nail, then I'm all ears. But yeah.
I'll be honest. This is the first time I'm hearing that Post Malone released an album this year. That's
Are you serious,
my
man?
bad.
There's no way, dude.
What
It's
the
been
hell?
all over everything.
First time I'm hearing about it. But I did look up the album cover, and Cullen, I will say that this looks like how typically our hangouts would end up. With your
100%.
now this I obviously F1 I would imagine this was an F-150, old F-150.
Yeah.
Yours was more of a an S10
Yeah.
Chevy S10, but this is typically how when we were hanging out in high school every night ended looking like this.
Yeah, we definitely used and abused that old pickup of mine, and Yeah,
That poor thing.
That was just the backseat.
there was no backseat. Believe me, you couldn't get
Nothing
back.
like it.
There was
So-
a bench seat up front though,
Hey.
and the heater worked good.
Is Mason a
All right.
passenger princess?
100%.
The most passenger princess you've ever met in your life.
You want to know how much of a passenger princess he was? Not only did he cross his legs, but he also crossed his arms.
Oh, you're just
That's
a
like-
grumpy little guy.
I'm always grumpy.
Wait, are you still hangry or did you eat? I feel like you ate something.
I haven't eaten yet, but that's
Okay.
all right. I'll eat soon. So,
Push through.
y'all ready for my number one?
No.
Because I'm about to steal it from Cullen, probably.
Yeah, you are.
My number one, and this is an album that I wasn't expecting to be my number one at all. This is a band that I've liked, but have never thought, okay, this is a band that will be my number one album. Also, this is an album, and we've done this sort of list for a number of years now. And most of those albums, like, I've really enjoyed, I love. But they aren't albums that, like, I've ever considered over the last 5 years. I haven't considered any of these, like, top 5 albums that I would put in my, like, top 10 albums of all time. This is an album I could see in 5 years 100% being in my top 10 of all time.
Same here.
And that is Foxing's self-titled, obviously Foxing. I was not expecting this album in any way, shape, or form. I've been a big fan of Foxing for a while. Near My God came out, probably was that 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
That was one of my top 5. And it's a great album, wonderful album. I listen to it still pretty consistently to this day. This album, though, this self-titled, will probably go down as a top 10 favorite album of all time for me. It is next level. It's everything that I love about alternative music. And it wasn't the album I was expecting because I have never heard Foxing scream before. And they both, Connor, their lead singer.
Hold up. You keep saying that, but they've definitely screamed before.
Not in this way, though. Like, this is post-hardcore.
Definitely not like this, but they have screamed before, so.
They have screamed, but, like, I was not expecting a literal part of the album being post-hardcore. Nobody's expecting that. Especially considering that their last album was very much like an indie pop album, very electronic kind of and it was a good album, but it wasn't nearly my favorite. And to, like, go from that album to something that literally sounds like every like the screamo that you would have heard in, like, the early 90s or something, like, it's very guttural. It's unbelievable.
But the other part of that is that the very next, like, measure in the song would all of a sudden be like an 80s synth pop song.
Yeah.
And then it would turn into like
and
then it turns into an indie country song somehow. And then it turns into
But you don't feel like you're like
it's not
getting
whiplashed.
jarred one way or the other. It's just all of it is melded so well together.
Yeah.
That's what it's just well done. Everything about it is amazing. I just wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
Again, they're like a kind of band where I'll pay attention to, like, what they're doing, and the last maybe 2 albums I've been like, okay, like, that's a good album, or that's a couple good songs. The first song I heard from this album was like a 8-minute long kind of post-rock type of song, and then the next song was literally like a punk rock scream centric type of song that you would hear from Fox, and I was just like, what is this? This is amazing. And the rest of the album was so well done. Yeah, this is an album that, even though I'm not, like, to me, Foxing is not going to be probably ever a top 10 favorite artist of all time for me, but this album probably will be a top 10 favorite album of all time for me. It is
That's high
next
praise.
level. I couldn't believe it. It is absolutely unbelievable. If you have not heard this album yet, highly recommend it. It's it's the best album I probably heard in the last 5 years.
I'm sold.
Yeah. I that is my number one as well. It is everything I love about not just heavy music, but music. Like, it's like all my favorite genres. in one package, done perfectly, with a little bit of like eccentricities at times, with those lyrics that really hit you like a freight train, with great riffs, with experimental textures, with everything. It is. I don't want to say a perfect record because I don't think that ever will exist, but this is pretty damn close. And I don't think it's Mason's being hyperbolic by saying that this could be, a favorite album of all time kind of record.
I'll check that out.
The other thing I want to add to this is I saw them for the first time live this year when they were touring on this album, and that was probably a number of months ago now, maybe sometime early this summer. Again, like, think about, like, this is a band that their last album was an indie pop album that was like almost all electronic music. They had a mosh pit at their show this year because, like, of how hard some of these songs go. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of dynamic that you get in a band like Foxing. And also, I want to add, live, Cullen has seen some of the best live musicians ever. You've seen Paul McCartney. You've seen, the Flaming Lips. You've seen some of the best live musicians ever. I'm pretty, like, narrowly in the, like, alternative music scene. I do think Connor from Foxing might be the best vocalist I've ever heard live.
Wow.
The way he's able to hit his, like, falsetto live and then be able to literally scream right after. I mean, it rivals, his voice rivals in terms of talent to me, rivals someone like Christian Linkskog from Blindside. It's just, it's
especially live.
Like how, live. I mean, it's just like it's unparalleled how he's able to just, like, literally sing the prettiest thing you've ever heard and then just go into, like, guttural screaming. Mm-hmm. It's next level. I've never seen it before. It's really well done. It's probably the best person I've ever seen just vocally be able to do everything you need to be able to do vocally in a show and just do it flawlessly. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I remember after the show, I immediately texted Cullen and said, I think Connor might be the most talented vocalist I've ever seen live.
Yeah.
I was just so and I've never seen them before live. So I didn't have any precedent on it at all. And he's just amazing. So I can't recommend the album enough. Everything about it is so well done. It's well produced. It's well crafted. Like the song, just even the song order, like, starts out super heavy. You get songs that are, like, very mellow. You get a song, like, it's just crafted well. Even the song order is well done. Everything about it is perfectly done to me.
Yep. I agree.
So, all right. Well, our number one is shared. So, Austin, who's number one for you?
My number one album of the year was Lil Dicky's Peanut.
Yeah! Dude, I'm a huge Lil Dicky fan. Are you actually being serious?
I haven't heard Lil Dicky songs forever.
I hope you're serious.
If you guys watch the show Dave on FX, it's one of the
so
best
good.
shows that's come out.
So good.
Peanut was the hypothetical album from that show that he put out. And it released in January, and when that dropped, I said, this is the best album that's going to come out all year. And when I got to the end of the year, I looked back on my notes, and there's nothing, in my opinion, that's been released that I have gone back to. It ended up on my top 5 of my Spotify Wrapped. And I love it. So we listened to that on tour when we're driving, like, the whole album front to back. It's phenomenal. I mean, I know he's, like, kind of a joke artist, but this album is really good. And if you guys are interested, it's a show called Dave on FX. It's awesome. It's like semi-autobiographical comedy about a rapper who's trying to make his way through the industry, and it's pretty crude and whatnot, but it's like one of the more. It's very much like Atlanta, if you watched Atlanta, but he put out an album that has like 20-something songs, or 15 to 20 songs or whatever. And we're probably going to have on our next album a song called Jail Part 2.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about, like, the same thing, but just a reference to that. So, yeah, 100%
I'm just realizing right now, too, he has not released any music, or at least a full album, since 2015.
Yeah, so it was like the first real big thing that he did. And it's so good.
I don't know what it is about. I have a strange knack of finding strange white rappers early on in their career. I found
Macklemore is another one.
I found Macklemore when Thrift Shop had less than 10,000 views on it, and I was like spreading it around. And the other one is Ex-Boyfriend from Lil Dicky. I found when it had like 1,000 views is all, and I was spreading it around. I don't know what it is about dumb white rappers that I.
Shout out Sean Mott from Metalcore Nerds. I know he'll appreciate that reference too. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick. Gator for life.
You know, not too many rappers can say they got their start because of bat mitzvah money.
Yeah, bat mitzvah money.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Yeah,
so,
gentlemen,
that's
I need to leave.
You.
Well, let's have you do.
My daughter
got dad things to do.
My daughter needs to take a bath.
Let's have you do your quick honorable mentions. You said you wanted to do them at the end, so.
My honorable mentions. I sincerely do have As I Lay Dying on my honorable mentions because I think it is a good album. I know there's controversy behind it, but I was impressed, and I'm super bummed that all that stuff happened because I think it's one of the better albums that they put out. It sounds really good. It's pretty heavy. I have Bon Iver's EP.
I was going to say you sound like a Trump voter, but okay. Keep going.
No. Okay, I should have left 5 minutes ago. I have Bon Iver's EP on my honorable mentions because it was nice to hear him go back to like his traditional sound, which I adore. I have Full of Hell on my honorable mention. I haphazardly came across them at Furnace Fest and was kind of blown away by their set, and I just saw them again this weekend with Better Lovers. And then I have Dayseeker's acoustic album on my honorable mentions because Rory's voice is like so good. So
yeah, dude, I love those guys.
Yeah,
awesome,
great list. Great list.
That's
all
it.
Right. Go
Love
do
you. Bye.
Dad duties.
Yep.
At the Undertaking Rocks on Instagram.
Song of the year if you don't count any other songs, right? For the Undertaking, yeah, Touch
and
Dirt.
The Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
My mom said, "Hey, congrats," and I said, "That's a joke."
That's amazing. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Do I have to stay here, or can I leave and you're still good?
You can leave. Hey,
you should be good.
Thanks
Don't
again.
let the door hit you on the way out.
Peace, man. Well, since we're going back in that order, I'll do mine. How about that?
I like it.
All right. Some of my other honorable mentions was Mono, Japanese post-rock band. Their album Oath came out. It's good. It's not great, but anything Mono does, I'm on board with, and I love it. So it's always going to make my top 10 list. Thou came out with an absolutely insane record with Umbilical. I don't know if anyone listens to Thou. We are going to have them on at some point.
Sick.
Those guys are amazing, and I think that they stand for so many good things. So Umbilical is an incredible record. Project 86, Omni Part 2, I really, really dug that record. Part 1 was great. Part 2 is just as good, in my opinion. Meadows, Familiar with Pain. Gloomchild, Midnight in Limbo. Gloomchild is another band we're going to have on actually tomorrow. And
we'll interview tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll interview tomorrow. They are an insanely talented group of people, and they deserve more recognition, and they're very, very genuine, kind people. Also, the band The Smile, which is basically Radiohead, their new record is awesome. Delta Hate's new record's great. Lightworkers album is great. And then one that doesn't need any shout-outs, but I want to anyway. Jerry Cantrell's new record, solo record, is so good. So good. I Want Blood. Great name, too. So that's my list. Mason?
Great list. All right, I've got a few more. I would have mentioned Touche Amore. They were my number 6. But I do have a few here that nobody's mentioned yet. So from Indian Lakes, Head Void. This is a band that I was really into 10 years ago. Kind of lost track of like a lot of what they were doing. But they actually opened for Foxine and they released a new album this year as well, and it's like their most shoegazy album. It's so shoegazy, and I'm a huge fan of anything like pretty shoegazy. Big fan. But just a big fan of they normally are like really good songwriters, but God, this album is like kind of a notch above the rest, I think.
It's probably my favorite from them.
Yeah. Oh wow, dang.
Oh, Justin, I didn't realize you were a From Indian Lakes fan. That's good to know.
That's one of those records that I haven't listened to yet, and that's just because I haven't thought about it or had time. And it's probably going to end up becoming one of my favorites, but it will be a year late. So
it's well done. It's well done. It's definitely their most shoegazy thing. I just really like it a lot. Number 8 for me would have been Drug Church's Prude. I'm actually kind of surprised nobody mentioned Drug Church.
I was gonna have.
They did have a full length.
You're right.
So I feel at least Drug Church requires a shout out. Huge fan of Drug Church. Cullen and I don't know if you were at their Furnace Fest set, JJ, but Cullen and I were there, and they literally like had people. They would had crowd surfers literally like lined to the back, all the way to the back at the shed.
So sick.
That was so cool.
Brilliant idea.
So good. Also, I'm a little surprised, Cullen, at least you didn't mention this album, but Dustin Kensrue had a solo album this year that was like a country, kind of almost like spaghetti western album.
Yeah, it's a great record.
At times, called Desert Dreaming. I think it was really well done. It was definitely an album that was left field for him in terms of his solo stuff. He's never done quite anything like this before, but he has like such a. I've always thought that Dustin Kensrue's voice would have been perfect either for post grunge or for country, and it's kind of interesting that he ended up in this post hardcore band. But I've always thought his voice actually has been perfect for either post grunge or country, and he finally like did a country album, and it sounds so good. And my little claim to fame to this album is maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was hanging out with Dustin, and he was asking me like if there would be like because at the time he was writing this album and recording it, and he was like, "Hey, is there a cover like a song that I should cover?" Because he at the time I think he was only at like 9 songs and he was wanting to get to 10 songs. He was like, "I think I should do a cover." So I was like trying to recommend some like songs that he could cover, and that ended up not happening, but still unbelievable album. So I do feel like I at least tried to give input to this album.
You should have reached out to me and asked me what I thought.
Yeah, you would have been way better at it than I would have. Anyway. So anyway, Dustin Kensrue's Desert Dreaming definitely deserves at least a shout out. And then to just round out my list, Pedro the Lion had a new album this year as well. Mm-hmm. I feel like they deserve a shout out. I saw them live. I'm a huge fan of Dave, and they just put on an incredible show. Definitely not my favorite album of theirs, but just well done.
Yeah.
Typical Pedro the Lion type of stuff. You can't go wrong with Pedro the Lion sound. Nothing that was new from them, which if they would have done maybe something new that they would have executed well, I probably would have had it higher, but nothing new from them. It's going to be classic Pedro the Lion stuff, and anything Pedro the Lion that's going to be classic Pedro the Lion stuff is going to be top 10 for me. So
sure.
That rounds out my list.
Yeah. And we've already mentioned a couple of my honorable mentions. So like the Better Lovers record, Drug Church, Pedro, Meadows, Lightworker, and those are my pals. So shout out to my friends. But just to save face a little bit, because I mentioned a bunch of rap and mainstream records, there were a lot of heavy records I really liked this year. So Nails had a new record. Kubla Khan had a new record this year.
Yeah.
We already talked about Full of Hell, but Full of Hell put out Coagulated Bliss. Is it Bliss? I'm pretty sure it's Bliss. Anyway, but then I think my biggest honorable mention is going to be Matt Korecki's from Citizen put out a record. And I've always loved his voice and his lyricism too, but this solo record, outside of the Citizen world, is really, really special. It's called To Dream of Something Wicked, and if you're a Citizen fan at all, you should probably listen to it. But I don't know, there was a bunch of really good stuff, Candy, It's Inside You, it's really good. back into kind of the mainstream stuff. Like Megan Thee Stallion put out 2 different records. That's good. Doja Cat put out a really fun record. Beyonce did a country record. That was cool. Trying to think of smaller artists. My girlfriend turned me on to Medium Builds. He put out a record called Country.
Did she turn you on to anything else?
No, we're not married, so we don't do that.
Good boy.
It's for the Christian podcast. And then, yeah, I don't know.
That and you're an idol threat, so definitely.
Oh, dude, yeah, we don't do any of that. Microwave put out a new record. It's really good.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot Microwave put out an album.
Let's Start Degeneracy, right? Yeah. I pulled up my little Instagram post. I'm going through it now. But yeah, I mean, there was so much good music this year. I don't know, this is the first year in a while that, before I even made a list, I was like, man, maybe there wasn't that much. And then when you start going back through everything you've listened to, it's like, okay, no, there's still a ton of really cool stuff being put out. So
yeah, for sure.
Great honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for, again, I mentioned it at the top of the episode, but my goodness, I just think that we're over the last 5-6 years, especially the world that we're in of alternative music, both heavy indie stuff, just so much coming out. I remember when I was in college, early 2010s, it just always seemed maybe I just was very dumb. I at that time I wasn't really into Title Fight, but Title Fight was kind of popping off at that time, and I just totally missed that whole thing. But and maybe a lot of that, it was just I missed a lot of albums. But my goodness, there is just so much good music coming out right now. Mm-hmm. And I just feel very fortunate. In the same way where I remember the way I compare it is, I remember 2004 to 2009, all the Tooth and Nail stuff that was coming out. It just, everything that was coming out, it was all brand new to me. It was all amazing. And I just and I felt like a kid at a candy store, just anything that's coming out from Tooth and Nail in that time period, I'm just going to eat it right up. And I just feel the same way right now for the last 5 years. Anything that's coming out that's new to me, or there's a band that it's not new to me, but they're just making amusing music. Just everything about it. I feel like a kid at a candy store again. So yeah. I just think we're just at an amazing point of music, and maybe that never stopped. Maybe it was always like that. I don't know, but my goodness, we are just at to me a golden age of great alternative music.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I second that for sure.
So, well, thank you so much again for Justin and the Austin Visser, who has dropped off now. But what a great year of music. New music will be coming out next year, and I'm sure we will be all over it as well. Big fan of the fact that I'm going to be able to probably see you again at Furnace Fest, at the very least, Justin. I'm hoping to see you before then, but at the very least, I'm probably going to see you again at Furnace Fest, which I'm really stoked about.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. I need to come out to your neck of the woods. I think I say this every time I'm on y'all's podcast, but I need to come hang with you guys. But yeah, I absolutely plan on being at Furnace this next year, and I'm sure we'll find some time to link up.
We'll do nefarious things like we always do.
Like always.
We'll sneaky link
yeah,
up.
we got to keep it sneaky.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, Justin. Thank you so much, Austin. What a great year of music, and it's fun to reminisce about it. So we'll do it again next year.
Absolutely.